I'm Lynn, and today I'll be sharing with you on how P5 students can excel in SA2. So some may think that P5 SA2 is just another common end-of-year examination, but it is more than that. Let me share with you on why the P5 SA2 is important. So we have analyzed 8 SA2 papers from different schools, specifically the paper 2s because they are higher in difficulty. And we grouped all the questions according to their topics. So here is a look at the pie chart. What we found was that the most difficult topic was fractions, ratio and percentage at 30%, followed by whole numbers at 24.1% and geometry at 16%. Now, we also analyzed 2021 to 2024 past year PSLE paper 2s, and we also found that the most difficult topics were fractions, ratio and percentage at 20.8%, area and volume 19%, and geometry at 18%. Do you notice any similarities between the two? There is actually an overlap of topics, namely fractions, ratio and percentage, and geometry. So, SA2 can serve as a reliable early indicator of how students will fare in primary 6. And we can also see it as a mini trial run for PSLE. It can actually help to predict PSLE levels. So now that we know why SA2 is important, let's take a look at some challenges that P5 students may face in SA2. So, here's an example of a question before SA2, and it is on fractions. You may pause to read this question. Now we compare it with the question in SA2. This question combines the topic of percentages and fractions. So it has students' knowledge on both topics. Now, let's take a look at another question before SA2 on average. So this question just tests on whether students will be able to apply the formula of average. But now in SA2, students will not only need to be familiar with the formula, but also apply the understanding of average in different situations. There is also a method for solving this question called taking from the excess to fill in the shortage. Now, another question in SA2. This is a complicated word problem question. Some P5 students may be seeing this for the first time. This is actually a transformed chicken and rabbit problem. So the characteristic of this question is that it has two total quantities, which over here are the total number of coins and the total value of the coins. And it also has two individual quantities, which are the value of 10-cent and 50-cent coins. So if students see this for the first time, they may think of the guess and check method, which can be quite time-consuming. So there is actually a faster method called the assumption and adjustment method, which can help students solve this question easily. So the challenge of SA2 here is actually that it is the first comprehensive assessment that includes the 3 major abstract relationships and 8 major word problem types. Not only this, there is also an increased difficulty in the questions. So let's take, for example, the topic of angles. The question over here. So we need to directly find what is the angle QTS. This is relatively simple compared to this question in SA2. This is a folding problem. So this will test students on their ability to visualize and how flexible they are in solving the questions. So now, from static questions, we have dynamic folding problems. In another topic of patterns, we also transition from single to multi-pattern recognition. For example, over here, students not only have to find the pattern of gray squares, but also white squares and the total number of squares. So we can see that it is getting increasingly difficult for our P5 students. So how can they be better prepared? We have come up with 4 tips for P5 students. So the first is to master core concepts. It is very important that P5 students have a strong foundation in order to solve the simpler questions. And now for tackling the difficult questions, they will have to be familiar with the 3 major abstract relationships and 8 major word problem types. If students do not know where to begin regarding this, they can have a look at our YouTube videos. So for example, over here, we have a video on average problem, and this also teaches us the method of taking from the excess to fill in the shortage. And we also have a video on chicken and rabbit problems as well as folding problems. So we strongly suggest that students try these questions out for themselves first before watching the explanation. This will test the current understanding of the questions. And the next tip is to review and correct mistakes. So it is very important for students to actively review mistakes and identify the gaps in their understanding. Now they will also have to work on closing those gaps before the examination. So let me give you a few examples of mistakes that students have made. So in the example over here of a pattern question, this student managed to get part A correct, but part B and C were answered incorrectly. So this was due to the student being unclear of the pattern. If we take a look at the number of circles, we can see that they are actually square numbers. 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, and so on. Now if we take a look at the pattern for the number of squares, we can see that they are in steps of 1. So in order to find the total number, the student will have to recognize these patterns first. So these students should practice more on pattern finding questions in order to brush up on their knowledge. So another example over here is that students are unfamiliar with this kind of question. This is actually a transform, excess, and shortage problem. We can see that this student did not manage to get the question correct due to a lack of knowledge and exposure to the question. So it is very important for students to redo the wrong questions until you are able to solve them correctly by yourselves without any hints. So now that students have closed up on their knowledge gaps, they can practice timed exercises and past year papers. The keyword here is timed. So timing these exercises will actually help to improve speed, accuracy, and time management, which are very important under exam conditions. We also suggest to start with topical revision first and brush up on understanding of all topics. Then students can move on to past year papers, and we recommend from the 9 GEP schools, which are on the right, because these papers will have an increased difficulty. Another tip regarding doing papers is to skip the difficult questions first and return to it after you are done with all the questions. This ensures that you have enough time to attempt all questions. And then, remember to also leave around 20 minutes to check all questions before you end the paper. So now that students have done all of these practices, there may be some questions that they are unsure of. So it is very important to seek clarification early. So approach your teacher early on. Don't wait until the last minute. This will prevent snowballing from small doubts becoming bigger problems. And we also have a study group, so you may scan the WhatsApp QR code to join this study group. It is called the PSLE 2026 study group, and it is meant for P5 students. So you may ask questions at any time in the study group, and parents and teachers will try our best to help you answer them promptly. And those were the 4 tips that can help P5 students be better prepared for SA2. So give those a try. And if you still require additional help, we have P5 Semester 2 classes here at Kangaroo Study. So this will help to prepare for SA2. And it runs every Friday from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. starting from 29th of August. We have a total of 7 lessons, and you may take a look at our syllabus over here. We will cover the 3 major abstract relationships as well as the 8 major word problem types. This class is to build on the foundations of P5 students and help them excel in SA2. We also have structured review practices incorporated into our teaching method. We call this the 9-step teaching method. It is separated to in class and after class. So in class, we have before class test, homework review, new topic explanation, after class test, and corrections. And then after class, we have the daily practice, after class practice, explanation to parents, as well as redoing the topic questions. We aim to help students develop effective revision habits. And if you are interested in signing up for the class, an entrance test will be required. This will test on the essential knowledge for SA2. And you may scan this WhatsApp QR code to contact me, and I will help you arrange for the entrance test. Here is the location. And with that, we have come to the end of this video. I hope that you have found this helpful and that P5 students will be able to excel in SA2. I'm teacher Pamela, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!